Today's innovation and technology has allowed brake pads and brake shoes to last a heck of a lot longer than they did in the 1940s. Another odd thing that technicians used to do that it's probably taken for granted today was rebuild the brake shoe and take the lining off and put new lining on and rivets. Today we know that ZF Industries provides everything in one package. We don't have to rebuild them. And frankly, I'd rather have them rebuild it and put it together than me do it.
We're in Farmington Hills, Michigan at the ZF headquarters to talk a little bit about TRW branded suspension and brake components. And man, you want to talk about innovation? These guys were developing for the Model T in 1909. And since then, they have pivoted and evolved to become the trusted brand that we know them as today. Let's go inside and see what else we can learn. The 120-year heritage of TRW, a brand under the ZF umbrella, has put the company in a position to truly excel as a designer, creator, and consolidator of automotive braking systems and chassis parts. Thanks to the company's long-tenured work with OEM suppliers, ZF engineers can take the lessons they've learned from the development of OE braking systems and chassis parts and adapt them to the aftermarket. It isn't as easy as simply taking that OE part and shipping it with a new name in a different colored box. To learn more, I had the pleasure of speaking with Donovan Jordan, product manager for ZF's US chassis program, and Brian Rassick, ZF's North American category lead for control systems.
OE manufacturing is run 100 million pieces at once. You know, where aftermarket manufacturing, you've got slower movers and you have to accommodate and have to have specific equipment and so forth to be able to account for those lower, that lower dynamic. We know what FMVS 135 is, you know, on a OE vehicle, and that's, you know, there's certain federal requirements on stopping distance and everything else there. So that learned experience there we can bring over into the aftermarket. So that helps us then put together a pad that's suitable for the aftermarket, but yet still is a higher profile pad than the rest of the aftermarket there.
As anyone who has attended the AAPEX show knows, quality means nothing in a component if that quality isn't carried over consistently on the production line, part after part after part. That can be a real challenge for manufacturers. Unless, of course, you're ZF with meticulously built systems in place to ensure consistent TRW products coming off the line.
All of our products, they all go through a 4-level engineering and quality testing standard. So before a part is even put in the box and sold to the customer, it has an extensive engineering review, and they also reverse engineer based on the OE part to ensure that everything meets those specifications. And from a quality standpoint, we have endurance testing that we put all of our products through. We also have environmental tests that we do for each part just to make sure that it can, you know, stand up into the elements.
All right, so we have a big old check mark next to quality and another next to consistency, but that's still not enough. These attributes alone can't complete the puzzle. I mean, what's the difference if you can't ship that component where it's needed exactly the moment a technician needs it? Well, ZF has that figured out too, by reducing the number of steps in the supply chain wherever possible through nearshoring.
We produce pads in Mexico for the North American market. We have a production in South America for South America. We have it in Spain for Europe. We have it in Qingdao, China for China and Asia Pacific. So we tend to put our manufacturing closer to the region, shorten the supply chain. That improves order fill for our customers and order turnaround. When a customer has their customer has a vehicle in the shop, it needs to be repaired, they need the part. They can't wait 90, 120 days, 210 days to get something in from Asia Pacific or Europe or whatever. The beauty of having a plant in Mexico is that you're able to be closer to your customer base in North America and reduce the supply chain lines there, which equates to quicker order turnaround, order fill rate, and that. Now, the beauty of this plant is that it's strictly aftermarket. We have OE, we have aftermarket. The lessons learned on OE are transferred into there, but the aftermarket needs are completely different than the OE. We are prepared to be able to handle the slow runners, the fast movers, with different types of equipment, different processes and that, but well controlled in that plant that if you were to go through the plant, you'd say, well, that looks a lot like the OE.
You know, now that I think about it, nearshoring isn't just a brilliant concept for the parts supply chain. From a social perspective, it's kind of the whole goal of the AAPEX show. It's putting attendees and their businesses as close to the source of their parts as possible, literally in the same room. It gives you the chance to get in front of manufacturers and suppliers, explain your needs, talk about your challenges, and discover the best way to get products at the most reasonable price possible. And that might be the best thing you can ever do to stay competitive in your marketplace.
AAPEX benefits the entire aftermarket because it allows everybody to congregate in one location. This allows us to communicate one-on-one with our customers. It allows us to showcase new items. It allows feedback on those new items from the customers there.
Leading is about more than just having advanced technology. It's about understanding and fulfilling our customers' needs at every step of the journey. We take pride in being more than just a supplier. We are your partners in progress.
You can feel confident Continental is the smart choice in tires.
Can they handle extremes?
Anything for the guy who finds that one pothole.
Were they made by like a bajillion engineers?
Yeah.
Really?
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 Really. Welcome to the smart choice in tires.
Information is power, and powerful repair information makes your technicians more efficient and your shop more profitable. Introducing Mitchell One, the most trusted source for auto repair information, shop management, and marketing solutions. Mitchell One, powering shop success with complete information. That's our mission.
When all roads lead to AAPEX, the three main things you're going to want to check before a long road trip are the tires, oil, and brakes. Eric's going to help us out with that in this episode of Road to AAPEX.
It's very important, a couple key things anytime you're replacing tires. First thing is it's very important to clean both surfaces of the lip of the wheel so the tire will properly seal. A very common problem that's often overlooked is corrosion in the hole for the valve stem. I often use a screwdriver. It's hard to get in here. You can use a round wire brush, or I like to use a screwdriver to really dig in the corners and get all that corrosion out of here. And then also in the actual inside diameter immediately through the wheel where the valve stem goes through, I clean any corrosion off of that surface as well. And that prevents leaks at the valve stem. When I'm getting ready to mount the new tire onto the wheel, there's two things I do. The first is to confirm that you're putting the exact size tire on that you took off of the vehicle. If you try to mount the incorrect size tire onto a wheel of a different size, that can be very dangerous. Now I know the tires I took off are 225, 65, 17, so I'm going to take a look at the sidewall of these new tires. 225, 65, 17. I know that this is the correct tire for this wheel. The second thing I do is I take a quick look at the tread. It may be an asymmetrical tread, or it could be a directional tire, which means directional can only go on one side, right or left. Asymmetrical, there's an inside and outside of the tire. So I just take a quick glance at the tread just before I mount it to make sure that I am installing the tire in the correct direction, if necessary, on the wheel. If there's any question about the tread, if you're not sure, anything such as a directional or asymmetrical tire will be noted on the sidewall. In this situation, a higher mileage vehicle, there's a little bit of pitting on the surface of the wheel. What you want to do is you want to use a bead sealer, which is just a thin layer of a rubber type adhesive that you coat the inside sealing bead of the tire, and just take a little bit, brush it along the bead all the way around, and this will prevent leaks between the tire and the wheel. And the final step, just before you actually mount the tire on the wheel, is we're going to use a little bit of lubrication just around this surface here, just so it slides over the wheel and doesn't catch or grab anywhere. Now, we have not applied any bead sealer to this surface. The bead sealer is all right in this area here, so we can take our brush and actually just kind of run it around the inside here just to get a little bit of lubrication just on this part of the bead of the tire. And now we're ready to put the tire under the wheel. Now I'm going to rotate it over here just so I have air. Once I've got these tires mounted up, I'm going to roll them over here to the balancer where my friend Andrew is going to balance them up. As you can see, I'm using a special attachment here on the end of the impact, and this is a torque stick. Now, normally you would not impact lug nuts onto a vehicle because you could damage the lug nut, the stud, damage the seat on the wheel, potentially warp a brake rotor. However, it's nice to impact lug nuts on because that can help to seat the wheel evenly as opposed to just putting the lug nuts on by hand. Torque stick limits the output, the ultimate torque of the impact wrench, so you don't take any risk or any chance of over-tightening, over-torquing these lug nuts. This one is blue. They're color-coded based on the different ratings of the torque stick. You select one that is the same torque or just slightly below of what your lug nuts require, and then you can impact the lug nuts on the vehicle. Saves time and prevents damage. Okay, that'll wrap things up. We've gone around and double-checked the torque on all the lug nuts. Tire pressure set to what's specified for the vehicle. Our customer now has 4 brand new True Contact Tour 54 tires. We're going to take this car for a quick test drive, and then we'll get our customer back on the road.
Today's technicians look to the aftermarket for quality parts so they can turn their bays and get their customers back on the road. BCA Bearings by NTN provides OE quality wheel hubs, bearings, and seals to ensure that when customers come back, they come back for the great service.
Our recent purchase with Hunter was based on the fact that our old alignment machine lasted for 24 years, and I was very satisfied with that equipment, so when it was time to upgrade, I felt no need to shop around. I stuck with Hunter because that was tried and true.
Since 1927, AP Emissions has been your source for complete exhaust innovation. We're your one-stop shop for the exhaust brands you know and the quality you trust. Visit apemissions.com.
Introducing NexaMotion Group, a family born to unite the most innovative businesses and brands in the automotive aftermarket. Here at NMG, we're not just changing the game, we're revolutionizing it. By bringing together TranStar Industries and top auto care experts, we're committed to delivering everything you need for aftermarket success, from top-notch parts distribution to a cutting-edge e-commerce platform. Moving forward, with the NexaMotion Group, where cutting-edge innovation unites with exceptional service and quality products.
One of the biggest newsmakers at AAPEX this year is NexaMotion Group. You may know them formerly as Transtar. We sat down with their CEO, Neil Sethi, to talk distribution.
For consumers, everything's more expensive. Obviously coming off of COVID, pricing across all services and goods is up 30, 50, 70%. I think in automotive repair, it's no different. And, for businesses like ours, being in the business of parts and services and solutions for auto repair for our customers, our obligation is to provide solutions that aren't just quality and great and deliver them accurately. We need to make sure that they are affordable. And that's something that we take very seriously at NexaMotion Group, evolving our global supply chain to make sure we're partnering with folks that can continue to deliver these products at a value point that consumers could afford, I think is really critical. And I think that's what's great about the aftermarket. I think that's what the aftermarket really does a very good job in, is the aftermarket is here to provide these solutions for consumers at a price point that really does save them quite a bit of money versus alternative options. Pricing isn't ultimately coming down from pre-COVID levels, so I think we all need to do a great job of making sure what we're offering is very affordable. I think in terms of mobility and evolving powertrain types, given the fact that our legacy is in transmission driveline solutions, NexaMotion Group is really looking at the future, whether it be hybrid solutions or EV. Hybrids, by the way, are making a massive resurgence and emergence. From our studies, I think hybrids are the fastest growing, what I'll call alternative powertrain type. EVs, they're settling. There's been some recent, news that EVs are kind of, not growing as fast as one thought. But I think at the end of the day, what's true is the powertrain technologies are going to continue to evolve. This offers both challenges, but I think a lot of opportunities. There are products and solution needs that are specific to both of these platform types. I think as distributors, certainly us coming out of the legacy of being transmission, I think we're just continuing to evolve our solutions, whether they be continuous variable transmission, CVTs, that are mainly embedded in hybrids, or novel EV solutions that, whether it relates to battery and cooling technologies or lithium-ion battery, remanufactured batteries that you offer. I think this is an exciting time for the aftermarket. Change is difficult, but it also is an opportunity. So I'm excited about the changes, quite frankly. If you look at the evolution of repair shops and the services that they're adopting, we basically are evolving with where the industry has been, where it is now, and where it's going. So our historical core customer base has been transmission specialty installers. And over the last, decade plus, now they have evolved into other solutions, whether it be brakes, chassis, suspension, you name it. So about 30% actually of transmission installers' jobs are now outside of the transmission. Similarly, 140,000 general repair installers, about over half of them are already involved in transmission solutions. So for us at NMG, evolving from transmission and driveline, which is our legacy and our strength, and we're going to continue to evolve those great solutions into these other repair categories, was really purposeful, and it's following where the market is and where it's going. So for us, it's really a fun journey, to be frank.
Ask anyone the first thing that comes to mind when they hear automotive maintenance, and they'll likely respond with oil changes. In the automotive industry, oil is everything, and there are companies we've relied on that are practically as old as the industry itself, such as the DA Lubricant Company, who's been around since 1919 and is widely recognized for their Penn Grade 1 high-performance engine oil. Oils like Penn Grade 1 are popular among classic car owners, engine builders, and racing teams, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, day in and day out, as shop owners and professional technicians, we get asked about oil changes all the time. And over the years, we've all heard multiple opinions about what type of oil to use or what weight to use, and it's a topic that often comes up with our customers. Using the correct oil has always been important, but in today's engines, it's simply critical. We've all heard of the American Petroleum Institute and the International Lubricant Specification Advisory Committee. But we never really say that because we know them as API or ILZAC from the back of the oil bottles. These organizations develop the oil performance standards and requirements for today's engines. Modern oil is all about chemistry, and two of the most recent factors affecting engine oil are low-speed pre-ignition, or LSPI, and variable valve timing systems, or VVT. LSPI became a problem with modern small displacement direct injected turbocharged engines, partly because of the heavier loads placed on these smaller engines, but it was also discovered that certain detergents in the engine oil contributed to the problem. The development of new engine oil chemistries was required to combat this issue. Of course, VVT isn't new, but it's increasingly popular, and in these applications, the engine oil must act as a hydraulic fluid. Any air in the oil will severely affect system operation, so resistance to aeration has become a prevalent factor for motor oils, and again, we look to engine oil chemistries to solve this problem. Auto manufacturers work closely with organizations like API and ILSAC to develop engine oil requirements for their vehicles, and there's no option. You simply must use the engine oil that is specified by the manufacturer. What about oil weight or viscosity? In simple terms, oil thins out when it gets hot and thickens when it gets cold. Both extremes affect the performance of the oil. In extreme cold, using a low viscosity oil not only allows an engine to start easier, but it also lubricates better because the oil is able to flow and do its job. On the flip side, when subjected to extreme heat and pressure, high viscosity oil is required to maintain film strength and thickness under these conditions. The bottom line, again, is always use the viscosity recommended by a vehicle manufacturer, because that's the oil that will protect the engine under the conditions the vehicle is driven. And that's the oil that is designed to work with oil-controlled systems such as VVT or hydraulic timing chain tensioners. Now, since we're talking about heat and pressure, let's get back to the subject I promised, and that's classic cars, muscle cars, and racing. This can be a whole different ballgame with engine oil. There's a lot at stake here, from the investment and livelihood of the racers who put everything to the test, to the oil they use, to the engine builders whose reputations are at stake, to classic car owners who are protecting their investment and their dream cars. In this arena of performance, quality high-performance oils are engineered to reduce internal friction for increased horsepower output while maintaining their strong lubricating film protection under the most demanding torque and extreme temperatures. These engines rely on oils that offer superior film strength and protection under the harshest conditions, anti-foam inhibitors to protect against air entrainment, detergent and dispersant additives for engine cleanliness, oxidation inhibitors for high temperature, and enhanced zinc and phosphorus. The question over zinc, or ZDDP, is one of the most common among classic car owners and a critical aspect of oil used in engines with flat tappet camshafts. Zinc is ultimately a metal treatment that adheres to the surface of metal and becomes a wear barrier between those surfaces. The contact surface between the cam lobes and lifters is one of the highest loaded surfaces in an engine, and on engines with flat tappet camshafts, zinc is necessary to prevent immediate wear from occurring. Classic and performance cars aren't driven every day, sometimes sitting for long periods of time. The best oils for these applications are designed to stick and cling to metal surfaces, ensuring a layer of protection on startup, no matter how long it's been. If you service a lot of these vehicles in your shop, you can feel confident representing the benefits of quality performance oil to your customer.
We are MPA, Motor Car Parts of America, a global manufacturer of light and heavy-duty rotating electric, brake parts, wheel hubs and bearings, turbochargers, and electrical component testing. MPA, the global leader for parts and solutions.
Aftermarket Armor introduces a bed liner that has a 4-hour pot life, which is twice as long as the competition, giving you the needed time to complete the job. A proprietary formulated product giving you the best UV resistance, protecting your vehicle from sun fade for years to come. Find out more at aftermarketarmor.com.
Looking for a refreshing change? Say goodbye to sluggish performance and reach for the one that won't slow you down. Experience the force of clean, pure oil. Wix Premium Filters. Performance starts here.
Buckle up, AAPEX attendees. Looking for OE performance in your automotive aftermarket parts? Continental delivers. Our comprehensive aftermarket program matches OE standards, including our OE Technology Series belts. This ensures technicians can install our belts, hoses, tensioners, and timing kits with confidence. Continental, we know OE because we are OE.
In our episode with NTN Bearings, I didn't have to do any heavy lifting when we showed you a wheel bearing replacement. And guess what? I don't have to do it again either, because Eric is going to be replacing all of the brake components on a 2014 Mustang, courtesy of our friends at TRW. Watch how fast he'll get this done.
Okay, we're working on the brakes on this 2014 Mustang. This car's got a lot of miles on it, gets driven a lot. You know, we haven't torn these brakes apart to see if the calipers are good or not, but with the miles on it, this owner needs to depend on the vehicle. We're replacing pads, we're replacing rotors, we're replacing the calipers. We're doing it all to make sure this thing is good to go. Okay, we pulled the caliper off of the caliper bracket here, and we're hanging it for right now. We're going to leave it installed just to the point where we swap the caliper out. That way we don't have to worry about blocking up this hose to keep brake fluid from dripping all over the place. And now you can see the advantage of loosening this banjo bolt to start with, because we'll just be holding this in our hand and we won't have the leverage of the caliper being bolted down, so we can just pop it loose real quickly when we get to that point. This wheel hub is actually pretty clean looking, but nonetheless, what we're going to do, I'm going to wipe some of the dirt off of it, and I'm going to use a wire brush just to clean it off a little bit. It's important to make sure this wheel hub is nice and clean, so when you put the new rotor on, it will seat flat against here. There's no dirt trapped underneath, and then the wheel will seat easily. You want to clean around where the center bore of the wheel fits over the center of the hub here. You want to make sure you wire brush that off, clean off any corrosion, and so the wheel and the rotor will both sit flat and you get the proper torque with the lug nuts, and you don't have to worry about anything being warped or getting loosening up down the road. All right, we've got the hub all cleaned off and we're ready to start getting these new brakes installed. First thing I'm going to do is, you always want to take a little bit of brake clean and a clean rag and wipe down the surface of the rotor just to get any contaminants or oil or anything off there that might have happened during packaging or shipping. Get the rotor in place. I like to use a lug nut just to hold it in place. Just makes it a little more convenient for installing the caliper. We've got our new calipers, and I'm going to install the new brake pad clips onto the caliper bracket. Going to apply some brake lube to the clips where the pads sit, and you want to make sure you use a specific brake lubricant. This lubricant is designed to handle the heat of the brake system and to resist washing away. Next thing I'm going to do is slide the pads in here just to make sure that they fit properly. And it makes it a little bit easier to install because I can see a little better right here as opposed to once I get it on the car. course, this is important here. Always be sure to torque all bolts to the manufacturer specification. Okay, now we're ready to install the new caliper. I'll take our old caliper, and of course you always want to make sure you hang any caliper so it doesn't hang and put any stress on the brake hose. And here you can see this is why we loosened the brake banjo bolt before, just so now we can loosen it easily when we go to replace the actual caliper. Got a drip pan under here because brake fluid's gonna start coming out right away. Always use the new banjo bolt and washers that come with the caliper, just so you get a good seal. Okay, now the new caliper is installed, and we're going to open the bleeder screw and just going to let it gravity bleed on its own for a while. I'll leave this pan here, and while we go work on the other side, and we'll come back and check it. Once some fluid's running out of here, we'll close the bleeder up, and then we'll just be about wrapped up. You know, we've replaced the pads, rotors, the calipers. Anytime you're doing a job like this, replacing the calipers, you just want to make sure that you match the calipers up, make sure they are the same as the originals. Of course, you want to be careful to get the caliper on the correct side, so the bleeder is on the top. Use the new banjo bolt and washers that come with the caliper. Make sure the pads fit in the caliper bracket properly, everything's lubricated correctly, and then you'll finish up by bleeding the brake system and setting the brake pedal. All right, we're just finishing up. We're going to get the wheels on, get the lug nuts torqued, and we're going to take it down the road, make sure the brakes feel good, and get it back to the customer. You'll notice I used a torque stick here and an impact wrench to install these lug nuts. I still made sure I did it in an even pattern and made sure the wheel was seated evenly. The reason I like to use these is because that vibration from the impact makes sure the wheel gets seated properly in place, but the torque stick prevents you from over tightening the lug nuts. Once we drop this car down onto the lift, then you'll see we'll go around with the torque wrench and get the final torque on these lug nuts.
Thanks to Eric and TRW for providing the brake components for our 2014 Mustang. I think it's going to be able to make it with no problem to AAPEX. And hopefully I'll see you guys there November 5th through the 7th. Make sure you stop by and say hello.